Good morning students. Today we are going to see the thoracic vertebrae. The thoracic vertebrae, how it is differentiated from the cervical vertebrae, we will see. Look at the cervical vertebrae and this is the thoracic vertebrae. Cervical vertebrae, you can see in a nice foramen present over here, that is called foramen transversorium, which transmits a vertebral artery which is going towards the brain. Understand? So it is, can you see the vertebral foramen? So this is called the foramen transversorium, this is the vertebral foramen. So this is cervical vertebra. So this is how you have to differentiate. Second one, in the thoracic vertebra, because of the attachment of the ribs, the thoracic vertebra body has some facet like things. So can you see smooth facets? This is called facets. These are all called facets. In this vertebra also clearly you can see this smooth surface is called as facet, which is present in the body. So with the facet we will see what are the parts of the thoracic vertebra, and then you can see how to differentiate. Another one important point is, the most important point is facet for the ribs as well as for the here also the ribs will be getting articulated in the transverse process. And the second important point is foramen transversorium, which is present in the cervical vertebra and it is not present in the thoracic vertebra. Number 3 is the shape of the body. You can see the heart shaped body which is present in the thoracic vertebra. In the cervical vertebra it is not heart shaped. So now I will remove the cervical vertebra, we will see the thoracic vertebra, which are all typical and which are all atypical. First we will see which one is a typical cervical vertebra. So I will show you the typical cervical vertebra which has the body and which has pedicle. The small one which is connecting this posterior part is called as pedicle, and then this is called as superior articulating facet, and the down it is called as inferior articulating facet, and here are the transverse process and here is the spinous process. Now you can see a foramen here, that is called the vertebral foramen, which transmits the spinal cord. And then this is the superior surface in the body, this is the inferior surface of the body, and here you will be having a ligament for all the vertebrae, that is called as anterior longitudinal ligament. You have to articulate the vertebra like this. Can you see the superior articulating surface is getting articulated with the vertebra above, and here the inferior articulating surface is getting its articulation with the vertebra below. This is how you have to articulate. You can see something, some vertebra are obliquely placed. So can you see the spinous process, how much it is oblique? This is a typical feature of thoracic vertebra, but in the upper vertebra it will be looking similar to the first last cervical vertebra. This is almost see, this is the first. Can you see it looks similar to the cervical vertebra? Both will be looking like, but look at the spine. See, look at this difference of the spine between this vertebra and this vertebra. Both are thoracic vertebra, but see the spinous process, this very flat and it is very oblique in direction. So we will see this must be towards the last, okay, or in the middle part of the vertebra, middle vertebra. Now we will see the other features. We will see the other features now. Okay, body we have seen, pedicle we have seen, superior articulating facet also I have showed, and then the body you can see two facets, upper facet and the lower facet. This facet gives attachment for the ribs. In the ribs also you can see two facets. Can you see this is called costal facet? In the middle you have the crest. In the middle the sharp one is called the crest. So how to articulate with the rib? You just have a look that the costal groove, this is the groove called the costal groove, which is present inferiorly. So now you have to keep the rib like this, and the lower facet is for the corresponding vertebra. It means the corresponding vertebra. So I have to articulate like this, and then the neck also you have an articulating process here, that will be articulated with the transverse process. You can see nicely there is a facet for the transverse process also in the transverse process. So you have to articulate like this. So in the exam you have to articulate a rib like this. Okay, so this is how you have to articulate. So you have a facet in the body as well as in the transverse process, and if you go posteriorly, this part is called as lamina. Ligamentum flava, a ligament called ligamentum flava is getting its attachment here, which keeps all the vertebrae intact. So lamina attachment is ligamentum flava. So these are the important features of the typical vertebra. Then what it is called atypical vertebra? Number 1, first vertebra is called atypical. Why it is atypical? It doesn't have a body which is heart shaped. See, look at the body, it is not heart shaped. And then number 2 is you can see the facet. I have shown already the facet is demi facet. Demi facet means half facet. You can see this half facet and lower part also half facet. That's why it is called as demi facet. But if you see the first vertebra, you can see a complete facet. It means round circular facet you can see in the upper part, and lower part also you have a facet, as well as in the transverse process also, as seen in other vertebra you have a facet. But the only difference you could see is body is not heart shaped. You can see the heart shape, it is not heart shaped. Number 2, there is a demifacet in the typical vertebra. This first vertebra, there is no demifacet, instead of having a complete facet for the articulation of the first rib. So the first rib will be getting its articulation like this. So only one rib, no? So it will be getting its articulation like this. So this is complete facet. So this is about the first. And then second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, everything same. Now I will go to the ninth. So look at the ninth vertebra, you will be having the only one demifacet will be there, and as usual you will be having the transverse process also, you will be having the facet. But the difference is there won't be any inferior facet, only the superior facet, that too demi, not a complete one. Demi facet will be there. So this is the only difference. And then next is 10th. Okay, 10th, if I see here also you could see the transverse process, there is a facet, but look at the facet here, that is a complete facet. In the 9th I didn't show you the complete facet, that is a demi facet. It is almost encroaching into the body also, but it is going to the superior margin, so it is called demi facet. But here it is the complete facet, only one facet in the complete facet. But here only one facet, that is a demi facet. So it is 9 and it is 10. Here also the transverse process also you have a facet, so it is 10. And then 11th, if you see, there is no facet in the transverse process, and then you can see that there is a complete facet, but no facet in the transverse process. Understand? So this is 10th. And then last one is like this is 11th, and I will show you the 12th. 12th, if you see the same thing, you can see a nice complete facet, but it is encroaching into the pedicle. Okay, so it is encroaching into the pedicle and it is going towards this, and if you see the transverse process, we don't have the facet. Instead of the facet, we will be having some projections like thing. Can you see some projections? These are all called mammillary bodies, which is more prominent in the lumbar vertebra. And look at the body also. The body is not heart shaped body, what we saw in the typical thoracic vertebra. So this is the last vertebra, so it is almost looking like a lumbar vertebra because it doesn't have a facet in the transverse process. Instead of transverse process facet, it has some projections called mammillary body, and the body is also not heart shaped. So this is 12, and the 11th you will be having the same type of facet, but there is no transverse process facet. This is 11th. And then 10th you will be having a complete articulating facet, and then you will be having transverse process facet, and then in the 9th you will be having the demi facet as well as the facet in the transverse process. These are all about the difference between the atypical and typical vertebra. Thank you.